Good morning, everybody. Buongiorno a tutti. Thanks for your presence. It's a great pleasure in my quality of president of the Italian-Cypriot Chamber of Commerce to open the December Smart Talk of the Chamber, and I'm really happy and honored to have as a guest today the Shipping Deputy Minister of the Republic of Cyprus, His Excellency Vassilios Demetriades, that I warmly thanks for the presence. His Excellency Vassilios Demetriades is the Shipping Deputy Minister since July 2020. We had also the pleasure to have him as a guest in the January Smart Talk of the Chamber. And I'm honored to say that he's a friend of the Italian-Cypriot Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber, as you all know, is particularly present in the shipping sector, having organized and having in place several activities and initiatives in cooperation also with the relevant association of the sectors in both countries. In this regard, I convey the greetings of the General Director and the Chairman of the General Director Luca Sisto and the Chairman Mario Mattioli of Confitarma that we received just 10 minutes ago. Before to start, I have to say that the Deputy Minister Demetriades has a long experience in the sector gained in the European institution. Prior to his appointment, he served as a policy officer, the Directorate General of Mobility and Transport of the European Commission, dealing with the coordination of EU maritime transport strategies. He also was previously involved in the promotion of EU sustainable shipping initiative, and also in the past he was also the head of EU affairs in the Cyprus Ministry of Transport. So is absolutely present in the sector for many years. The today discussions will be moderated by Federico Franchina, that is one of the vice president of the chamber, but is also a maritime lawyer. And we will focus today on the new tender for the ferry link connection between Cyprus and Greece, with the expiry date, if I'm not wrong, 28th of January 2022. And this will be also the occasion to discuss about the related legal and economic frameworks, and of course about the importance of the connection in a wider Mediterranean perspective. Wider Mediterranean perspective that I can say is will be always more present in all the activities and initiatives of the Italian-Cypriot chambers in the coming year. Before to leave the floor to Federico, considering that this is the last event before Christmas, I would like to extend to all of you my best wishes for a Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous.
Thank you, Giuseppe, and let me thanks to you, the Minister Vassilios Demetriades, for joining us for this discussion, for the explanation of this new tender for the ferry link between Cyprus and Greece. We started this year with a presentation of after 20 years of this ambitious project that Cyprus, but I think also European Union is supporting for the ferry link and connection by sea between Cyprus and Greece. So I mean the Central Europe, and we now are considering the new tender. Has the first one has received a lot of interest among stakeholders and subjects that who were interested, and now we have the new tender that of course has considered observations, remarks, comments that to the first tender have been done. I remember very well that we discussed at the beginning of the year with the Smart Talk with the ministry how it's a bit difficult, even we can consider easy the connection by sea, just to put a vessel from one port to another one. But of course, there are so many aspects to be considered: the economic backgrounds, legal, and so on. Especially in a situation in which we don't have a market comparison, we don't have such a reference. This connection had the last time has been set up more than 20 years ago. But I don't want to waste time for the ministry and for participants. And so after the presentation, I leave the floor to the ministry's His Excellency Vassilios Demetriades to say if this time will be the good one, and if finally we will have a connection between the East Med and the Central and the rest of Europe. So please, Ministry, is up to you the floor. Thank you very much.
Well, dear Giuseppe, Federico, many thanks for your introductions. It's a great pleasure to be with you today, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present to our friends, to your members, our new attempt on this maritime link between Cyprus and Greece. First, I would like to apologize about my voice. I'm in self-isolation at home as I was tested positive in COVID last week. But I think I'm very much willing to share with you our new tender procedure, the new tender plan. And of course, as you very rightly said, it's been more than 2 decades that this service does not exist. And there is a government decision in Cyprus that we would like to reactivate this service. And that's why we knocked the door of the European Commission and we got the green light to provide national funding and national subsidy for that ferry link. We made the first attempt, as you very rightly said, last year, which was not successful, and we have engaged to a long consultation with potential operators. We have revisited the European Commission to improve the terms, and I'm glad to say now that on the 25th of November, we have presented a new tender document with more attractive provisions reflecting to the greatest possible extent the needs, the request of all the operators. I can go through the main improvements for our colleagues just to have a look at it. It's basically, let me share the screen. So what you see now is basically, okay, you see now the presentation. I think is first of all, let me tell you that on February, we have commenced a number of contacts with the shipping industry and potential tenders to improve the tender document. From March to October, we have engaged into discussions with DG Competition to improve the tender specifications. And then on the 29th of October, we have made an open consultation sharing with the potential operators the final draft of the tender provisions, and in order to receive some comments to make a fine-tuning and to further improve the terms. So on the 25th of November, we have launched the tender procedure. You mentioned already the deadline, which is the 28th of January, the deadline for submission of tenders. And our aim is to commence the service by spring-summer 2022. So if I go through the main provisions, the first improvement is obvious, and it has to do with the subsidy. In the previous tender document, we were providing maximum 5 million euros per year for 31 return sailings. Now this is improved considerably. We are now providing 5.5 million euros for 22 return sailings. We have listened to the suggestions of the operators to engage to do a seasonal service, because it was observed that we are expecting demand mainly for the summer, spring and summer period, and the fact that operators mentioned that they cannot keep the vessel occupied for 31 weeks, is better just to have a seasonal approach so they can utilize their vessel in the rest of the year to another route. That's why we are now running this service for seasonal on a seasonal approach, starting from April to May till September, October, provided that the successful operator will perform 22 return sailings. About the ports now, it was a clear signal for the operators that they will have to use the main terminal of Piraeus port and not the Keratsini terminal that used to be in the previous port. So we have already agreed with the Piraeus Port Authority to use the main port. Then, going to the awarding criteria, now this is much simpler. Basically, once the proposal, the operator fulfills the technical criteria on the seaworthiness of the vessel, then mainly we award on grounds of the less cost proposal, which means if operator X will submit a proposal that will run this service in 22 sailings with 5.2 million, and the operator Y will ask for 5.4, then the lowest wins the tender. So it's much more simpler. We are not asking even a cost evaluation. We are just asking the operator to submit how much money he will need to provide this service. Then we made clear that now it will not be an option to include an intermediate port of call. Basically, now it's much simpler. It goes from a Cypriot port, either Limassol or Larnaca, to Piraeus, and not to have an intermediary port of call. And the reason is clear. One is because the fact that the vessel will consider to have considerable delay if there is an intermediate port in place, making the service less attractive. But the second and most important one is that if we engage into an intermediate port, it means that the subsidy has to be reduced, because we have to deduct from the subsidy all the, let's say, passengers that they will be embarking the ferry from the Greek island to Piraeus. Basically, all the commercial passengers, the cabotage passengers of the internal Greek route has to be reduced from the subsidy. And our, assumptions and calculations made this less attractive. Plus the fact that operators are already running, let's say, the link between, for instance, Piraeus to Crete, in order to execute the service towards Limassol or Larnaca, they might need to engage a second vessel, because there is no other way to do it, because they have to make sure to meet their the obligations under the Greek procedures for their return vessel, their return trip from Crete to Piraeus. They will have to be online with the time schedule they have. They have to mobilize another vessel. So we thought that intermediary port of call was not that attractive. Then we are trying to be more flexible with the vessel specifications. We are not asking the requirement to be an EU flag or an EA flag on the submission of the tender proposal. any operator could submit a tender with a ship or a number of ships, irrespective of the flag of the ship. It can be a non-EU flag. Once the tender is rewarded to the successful operator, then on commencement of the service, it has the flag of the vessel has to be European. So we are not forcing any operator to reflag the vessel to the EU on submitting the proposal, but only if it is rewarded the tender and is about to commence the service. So this will bear less cost for the operator. Then, of course, they are also flexible now to submit in their proposal more than one ships. For instance, if a company has a big fleet and is not has not decided yet which ship will be the one that will be running this service, they are allowed to present a number of vessels on their proposal, and they have the right to choose the ship that they want to run the service. I mean, upon awarding the tender to this company. So they are free to make their choice at a later stage. Another important, let's say, flexible approach is that we are not asking the full envelope of the vessel beforehand. We only need now the vessel's specifications. And upon, before performing the service, of course, we will inspect the vessel and we will ask the full details of the vessel's certificates. We are also reducing we have reduced the capacity of the vessel. Before, we are asking the vessel to be minimum of 200 passengers and 140 at least to be accommodated in cabins. Now this is reduced to 100 with at least 60 passengers in cabin, which allows more vessels, even smaller ferries, to take part to this competition. Another important requirement is the flexibility we provide on the replacement of the vessel. If the vessel faces any technical issues, any problems, and there is a need to replace the vessel, they don't have to replace it to an identical vessel, but a vessel that it meets the minimum requirements, i.e. the capacity of 100 passengers. And the operator could decide any time, for any reason, to change the vessel. We allow that, subject to the inspection of the vessel to make sure that it meets the safety standards. What I mean by that is that perhaps an operator might decide to start operation in 2022 with a smaller vessel, and if he or she observes that the market responds and there is a bigger demand, the second year of the contract, he or she could decide to engage a bigger vessel on this service. Then we are happy to give the green light to the operator to use that. Or before, in the previous tender document, the operator was obliged to use the same vessel for 3 years. So we are keeping his vessel, occupied for 3 years on that route. So now it's much more flexible because there is a seasonality approach. There is also the possibility of an operator not necessarily to own the vessel, but to time charter the vessel. You can approach, in the market, any vessel that is available and meets that criteria. You can engage in a time charter and have that vessel only for 6 months and run this service. And you can do the same the second year or the third year. So another two extremely important conditions are those that appear on the slide now. One is the fact that to ensure liquidity and cash flow, we have decided that we will pay to the successful operator on a monthly basis. For instance, if the operator has performed four return sailings in June. At the end of June, he will submit his report, and in 10 days' time, we are obliged to pay him for the June service, for the service that he did in June. So every month. Before it was every 3 months. So this is extremely important. And another point that ensures a long-term planning for the operator, and is important for the operator to include it in its investment plans, is the fact that if, and this is a very low threshold, if the operator managed in the first 2.5 years to attract more than 60 passengers on average, he qualifies for another 3 years contract. If he managed to secure 40 passengers out of 100, which is the minimum capacity of the vessel for 2.5 years on average, then he gets an extra year of subsidy. If it's more than 50 passengers on average, he gets extra 2 years of subsidy. And if it's more than 60 passengers, it gets automatically extra 3 years of subsidy. So it's a low threshold, which I believe is easy for an operator to meet. And like this, he could ensure a 6 years, let's say, subsidy, and not just 3. And here I would like just to mention that I had a number of meetings the last couple of weeks with associations throughout Europe, motorcyclists and associations engaged in scuba diving. And just to mention about the motorcyclists, in Cyprus, we have 31,000 registered motorcyclists. If only 10% of these people are using the service once a year, then you definitely meet the criteria that I just presented to secure a 4th, a 5th, or a 6th year, let's say, a contract, a subsidy from the Cyprus government. So I believe, like this, we make sure that the operator is paid every month, secures all of the money. The only deduction from the subsidy is the fare that the operator will charge for the passenger, not the income derived from the catering facilities, the entertainment facilities on board. So basically, this is a signal that the lowest will be the fare. The more, let's say, a wise, if I was asked for an advice, a wise approach for an operator is to charge even €1 single for the fare, which means that we will only, he will make sure that the reduction to the subsidy will be the minimum possible. Like this, he will attract, or she will attract, more passengers on board. And then, of course, any income derived from the services that he will provide on board, I mean, these are purely income that will stay with the operator. So basically, if we have 50 passengers on board and the fare is only €1, then it means that we will deduct for that particular sailing only €50, no more than that, because it's €1. If the ticket is €1, it's €1 times 50. If the ticket is 50, then it means we have to deduct 2,500, for instance. So the less expensive is the fare, the more attractive will be the ferry link to the passengers, and the less the subsidy, the less reduction it will be on the subsidy. So basically, this is, let's say, now a tip that I would like to share with the operators. The way it is structured is like running it at the lowest cost in terms of the fare to attract more passengers, to ensure the highest subsidy for the operator. And then, of course, the operator is free to charge on board whatever he feels like. We are talking about a journey of 25, 30 hours. Of course, we do set also the threshold about the duration of the journey, which is, I think, 30 plus 2-3 hours, which is 33 hours is 30 plus 3, the justified delayed, and then only if it delays more than 33 hours, then there is a small reduction on the subsidy. And when it comes to cargo, although, as you very well know, the cargo is not, let's say, is not funded, it cannot be funded, we are not allowed to fund, is not encouraged, but is possible, and it's possible in a very flexible way. Now, we just measure the cargo. If, for instance, an operator decides to carry cargo, we measure the cargo in according to the lane meters, to the volume, and basically there is a scaling to reduce the subsidy with a percentage if he or she decides to carry cargo. But for cargo, of course, they have to discharge to unload and load the cargo, not at the main Piraeus terminal, but at the Gerazzini. So cargo is not rewarded, but is permitted. And therefore, okay, I believe this is pretty much the main provisions. I believe these are much more attractive, flexible for the potential operators. It allows even to startups to consider engaging in that project, because now we are talking about time chartering a vessel. Of course, when I say startups, I mean as long as they have the shipping experience as stipulated in the tender conditions. And I don't know if you've seen, on Sunday, we made a joint statement together with the official statement with Israel. I had a virtual meeting with the Israeli transport minister, and and of course, the Israeli government, I'm grateful to them. They have acknowledged the importance of this project. And we have decided to make a statement signaling that the successful operator, once he or she decides to extend the link to Israel, then this is welcomed by both states. And basically, we are willing to help the operator once he or she decides to extend it to Israel, to do so. Don't forget that the Cyprus-Israel link is not bound by the EU rules, it's outside the EU. And there is not such a link now between Cyprus and Israel, or Greece and Israel. And we should not forget also the potential of a lot of people visiting the Holy Land, which is another dimension of attracting this specific segment of tourism. So I talk a lot. I'll stop here. I'm happy to take any questions from you, from our friends. Feel free.
Thank you, Minister. I think that our participants have found so many detailed your presentation, and also found as well. We can consider the first tender as a market test in order to get some remarks how and as operators have done. I found really interesting this second tender, and I think that this will be the good time because Cyprus and your minister are doing a very excellent job to promote not only something that could be seen as a business, but we are talking about the right of connectivity to take the East Med region close to the Central Europe. Indeed, I remember very well, as we discussed at the beginning last January, how it is important to connect with third countries. In this case, I read your statement with Israel, but the same consideration we received from the Italian Ship Owners Association, Confitarma, that is now among us as a participants. And I also found really, really remarkable the simplification of the tender due to the fact that, of course, shipping and COVID, shipping is facing still, and especially in the passengers side. I'm not talking about cargo, because cargo is making a fabulous years with a huge profits, but in passengers sides, we are considering shipping is struggling to make profits or to try to survive. I just want to make not only a question about just a consideration about about fares, because in the first tender there was I remember a provision related to the fares that should be made for passengers. This time the provision has been kept, but with a different approach. In this sense, did you make some economic study in order to find the right key for the subsides for in order to make a fair cost of the passengers, or you will leave to the market to make the good condition for passengers in this case?
Well, I think what you've seen in this new tender document, of course, as you very rightly said, is the simplified procedure, more improved, increased subsidy, and the increased subsidy is because we should not forget the fuel price, which is going up, and we have to consider that the seasonality approach. When it comes to how the market will respond, I understand this is mainly your question, how we envisage the market to respond on that. I don't know if is that the question. Mainly, listen, all the discussions we had through the last 6-7 months with operators, we didn't stick only to their suggestions. We were going back to our citizens to organize associations and groups just to test how they are going to respond if the service will run, for instance, for 22 weeks, if it's going to run for 26 weeks, if the price will be 50 euros, 10 euros, 2 euros, and if the duration of the journey is 30 hours or 25 hours. So now we have a clear, I think, view that, and that's why I made a lot of meetings also with motorcyclist associations, not only in Cyprus, but throughout Europe, just to test the ground. I mean, in 2019, for instance, it was a big event in the Isle of Man, which is, I mean, I don't know how many times smaller than Cyprus, attracting more than 10,000 motorcyclists to have an event there. These people now are ready to come to Cyprus if there is such a link available, such a service available to them. Even the Deputy Minister of Tourism, discussing with my colleague Savas, we are ready to host these kind of events once the service is ready. So what we are trying to do is that we are not going just to sign the contract with the operator, but as a government, we also feel responsible to promote this service, to bring the citizens closer to this link. And of course, then the ball is at the court of the operator to provide a quality service. We are talking about 30 hours journey. So they will need to have a decent area, a restaurant, a bar, even a casino, to make sure that people will be entertained on board. And this is also the way to generate income, I guess. So I do believe that there is a lot of potential, but even the threshold I just mentioned to only to attract 40 passengers or 50 and 60 and secure an extra year or years of subsidy, this is not, I mean, this is a very, it's a doable target and it's very easy to meet. So I do believe that there is a market here in Cyprus. And after all, the 5.5 million for 22 sailings, they cover to the greatest extent the cost of the operator. So I don't think it's as risky as it was in the first document for an operator to consider investing on that link. Plus, we should not mention it, and you've been in Cyprus, Giuseppe and Federico, you know how popular is this? You know that the successful operator will be very visible in the island. It will open, let's say, a window of opportunity of doing business in Cyprus if it's operating this link. And since we are talking to our Italian friends, I must say that it's worth consider for the operator. I'm not saying on a weekly basis, but running these 22, let's say, return sailings from Greece to Cyprus, to consider once a month to extend it either to Italy or to Israel, because what is important for an operator is to not to have the ship, I mean, less idle as possible. So basically, to run the ship the entire week. So if you consider a route from Italy to Greece, Cyprus, and Israel, then you cover a whole week. And this might be a test case, I'm not saying on a weekly basis, but throughout these 22 return sailings, the operator could test it 3-4 times to include Italy, to include Israel. And as a government, we are ready to promote it, to support it, even G government to government with Italy, with Israel, to signal the importance of this and invite our citizens to do so. For us in Cyprus, it's an absolute must to provide alternative connectivity to our citizens. That's why we are doing that. But I think there is a lot of potential, and the subsidies now is at a level that there is much less risk for an operator to engage and to open a window of opportunities, business opportunities in Cyprus.
Thank you very much indeed. The other consideration that I want to do, that I would like to do, is from your view, not only as a ministry, but as minister, but as an expert, do you see any possibility that not only this connection, but a wider and ambitious program at European Union level, and also with a link with according also the third non-EU country you mentioned, Israel, could be considered to be part of the motorways of the sea program in the future, if, for example, this tender will show good results, so increasing of connectivity between EastMed and Europe. Do you see any chance to be part of the motorway, the European Union motorways of the sea?
Well, I think that there is, especially in the EastMed, there is great potential to enhance cooperation among all the countries in the region, especially on maritime transport, on many projects, be it on the greening of the transport, facilitating coastal tourism, promoting the cultures among our nations. So I think a maritime link like this, okay, the notion of motorways of the sea, let's say, is not that, I would not say irrelevant, but is not that high on the agenda of Europe nowadays, I must say. But I do believe that initiatives like that, they bring closer our countries, and it makes also possible to use this service, these links, also to promote passenger transport, trade, cultural events on board the ship, and even through that to engage in common projects. I mean, discussing with Israel, which is only 10 hours, journey, it's obvious that we can, as Chamber of Commerce or as shipping chambers or as government to G2B or G2G, we can organize a lot of events on board the ship to consider common projects, to consider how we can promote issues like the greening, like the digitalization of shipping within our countries. And I think this kind of links could serve the purpose. So I do not only stick to the notion of motorways of the seas, which is also an important one, especially for our region. But this kind of services and initiatives could bring closer our nations in an attempt to consider joining common projects, partnerships, and I think your chamber with similar affiliate chambers, they have a role to play on that.
Thank you. It's a fabulous presentation. Thank you very much. I think, as I said before, that our participants will find a lot of insight in this presentation and in the tender. Giuseppe, if you want to conclude the event, so
yes, of course. No, but I think is I confirm what you said. Absolutely interesting. I think with the today discussion, we gave an important contribution to our members and to the stakeholder of the sector. I took also several notes, and we will have also internal discussion at committee level, because, as you know, we have a shipping committee in the chamber. So we will follow up the discussion that we have today. So okay, thank you very much, Minister, for your presence and for your availability. I hope to see you soon. In Cyprus.
To see you soon on board the vessel.
To see you soon on board.
Giuseppe, many thanks to both of you and to all our viewers for having the patience to stay with us for almost 45 minutes. What I would like to mention is that the presentation that I just shared with you today, I will send it to you so you can send it to all your members, collaborators, and the link to the official tender documents, of course, that they can have it. And of course, I'm really looking forward, just to mention that till the 14th of January, they are allowed to make questions, so we can clarify anything that any questions they might have about the tender conditions. And 28th is a deadline. Hopefully in May, Giuseppe, Federico, and Costas, you will be on board this ship to travel with me to Greece. And if there is an Italian operator that will run the service, who knows, we might be going to Italy as well. So Buono Natale from my side, all the best, and hope to see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.